All right, guys. Today's guest speaker is Erich Skelly. Coach Skelly is the defensive coordinator up at Sacred Heart. He also has coached for Eclipse the last couple of years. Last season he was the 2020 coach, working with those guys. So, Coach Skelly, thanks for joining us.
Of course. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Will.
Yeah, man, of course. We're excited. Coach Skelly is going to go over some defensive concepts, defensive principles, from a college perspective and what those guys, preach to their defensemen. So, you up and coming Eclipse defenseman, you can, take some of this stuff, listen to what Coach Skelly's saying and add it to your game. So, Coach, take it away.
Not just the defensemen, the middies too. Two-way middies are coming back, man. That's going to be a big thing. But thanks for having me, guys. So I'm still in quarantine, so this is my whiteboard. So throughout, I'll kind of zoom in and pull back out and write some stuff down. But just kind of a brief, quick overview of defense, basic concepts and things that we teach. The foundation and the principles are extremely important. First and foremost, reading a dodger. This is something that actually it takes skill. Is a guy attacking the cage or is he dummy dodging? Is he trying to put you out of position to set up a teammate on the backside? So just reading the body language of the dodger. And I know offensive coaches, if a guy is dodging first and foremost, they don't really want them to dummy dodge 90% of the time. A majority of the time, they're going to be dodging to go to the goal. But off-ball responsibilities, if a guy isn't dodging, you don't need to be sprinting all over the place, wasting your energy. It takes a lot more energy to play defense than it does offense because they have the ball. They're dictating what's going on. A backside offensive guy can walk into position, whereas a defenseman, we need to sprint. So with that being said, if a guy isn't dodging, then these rules that we're going to talk about don't necessarily apply. Now, yes, you want to keep your body position, things like that most of the time. But as far as on-ball body position goes, I genuinely believe that on-ball positioning is over 60% of your defense. If you have good body position and you have a good foundation of footwork and all those things that you put in off the field, I believe that's more than 60% of your defense. If you can give your goalies shots that they want to see. There's no such thing as holding, a team to no shots. It just doesn't happen. That's not our sport. But there's a big difference between high percentage shots, quality shots, and bad percentage shots, low quality shots. That those are the ones the goalies gobble up, make look easy, and then we're starting running and gunning in the opposite direction. So we're going to kind of talk about a few different positions and a few different things on the field. So we'll start with a top dodge. Okay, so if a dodger here we want them outside the box. By the time a dodger is inside the box, we want to have hands on that offensive player. So if you have a dodger right up here, we're just going to put him. There we go. All right. Couple different philosophies. Most of the time, coaches want you to keep them down the alley. That's pretty standard. Now, how are we going to do this? Few things. Our feet are very important. We teach our guys to play a little bit more square because we have pretty good athletes as our defensive midfield. We call them transition middies. So with your feet, we're going to place our feet to the inside shoulder of the dodging attacker, the offensive player. So our feet are actually going to be the lines on this board demonstrate where our feet are on that dodge. So if he's dodging down this alley, we're going to be square. And when he makes his move, we're immediately making contact to either force him down the alley or force him extremely wide, where if he were to sweep, let's see if I can kind of do this over my shoulder. If he were to sweep, his dodge angle is not at the goal, but it's wide into this back corner. Okay, we don't want this guy to be able to dodge and get here. That's what we're preventing. Okay, some defensive coaches, and the way that we actually used to do it, to make it a little bit easier to keep them down the alley, we angle our feet like this. Okay, so your right foot in this instant, he's a righty dodger right now. Your right foot is up at his top shoulder. Your left foot is up at his left shoulder. So you're matching there. That's just a little tweak. Whatever your coaches want you to do is up to you. The more athletic you are, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So what to you guys is the advantage to playing more square than to play, kind of the way I was taught, the way I coach, right, is to really take away the middle of the field and force down the alley. What kind of advantages do you guys see by playing more square?
Yeah, so we actually changed that last year was the first time that we did it due to our athleticism. And when, we talked to Coach Channing specifically, Coach Channing was the one who brought up the point, and then we did some research and looked at more. He talks about a lot of those guys he goes against in the PLL and his career in the MLL. For example, he said one of the hardest people for him to dodge is Abbott. Matt Abbott is one of the hardest people in the world, short stick, for him to dodge. Reason being is he plays him square. So even if Mike was sweeping for his strong right hand, he's so athletic that he just bumps him, sends him so wide that he doesn't have a shot. But he also then is waiting for a trail check. And as soon as Channing tried to pass the ball, he would get stripped. So he was literally running away to the sideline, not really focused on his dodge. So really, if they do want to get the middle of the field, it forces them to take an angle that they don't want. Now, like I had mentioned a couple times here, you have to be athletic enough to run with people. If somebody's just going to blow by you to the middle and you can't get a piece of them, then you're probably not going to play defense that way. But as far as our top 4 or 5, short stick defensive midfielder guys on our team, we feel we're athletic enough that the majority of people, we're going to be athletic enough to chip them and then trail them by half a step. We consider perfect short stick defense trailing a guy by half of a step. You are not beat if a guy is half a step in front of you. You're looking for a trail check. You're staying on their hip, driving them wide, and all teams pick on short sticks. So we're ready to slide to those guys anyways. If they need the slide, we're more than willing to go to them. But also by trailing them by half a step, you're preventing the rollbacks. Okay, so the rollbacks are a huge part. That if this were a lefty dodging down this righty alley, his chance for a shot is to roll back right here. And if you're trailing him by a half a step and keep him going, as soon as he turns the corner, we teach a hard wrap check, bringing it around, or just punching him hard, right in the chest. As soon as he turns, you're punching very hard. But it's the same thing if he were to sweep here. The last thing you want a guy who's sweeping to do is change directions in the middle of the field. If you can keep them going wide and down this way, preventing this rollback, you're sitting, as soon as he tries to roll back, punch, jack him up, your slide's coming, we strip the ball, and we're out. So it's just a minor tweak that we felt due to our athleticism that we could capitalize on that, specifically for our short sticks and our poles. Our poles are going to play that regardless anyways. For our game, the poles don't get dodged on the initial dodge quite as much as the short sticks do.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. No, I got you, and with the emphasis you guys place on that, that body positioning, forcing your guy, but being able to trail by half a step either way. And once he commits to his dodge, then that's the way he's going, it sounds like, right? And that, right, because a lot of teams, and again, what I was taught was that it makes it predictable, right? By saying, okay, I'm always going to force the alley no matter what. And it's very predictable. But for you guys, it's once he starts his dodge and is going a direction, that's the direction he's going. He's not rolling back. And that sounds like that's where the predictability comes from.
And by the time, so for the very first dodge, by the time he gets to the box, when he's touching that box line, we want to be hands-on. And the way that we teach our guys is you want to start at the hip and then work up his rib cage. Okay, so if a guy specifically dodging a short stick on an alley dodge like that, if you start on his hip, you're going to get underneath his bottom hand that he's trying to pin against his body. So you get underneath that hand and then work your shaft up his rib cage. You're not going to be called for a cross check unless you're doing this. Okay, we can't have that motion, but you can give a hard jam right down and on the hip and then work up his rib cage, and that puts you in a great position for a trail check if he does when the head of your stick is upfield. So now the next little spot here is we'll work on the wing dodge. Wing dodge is especially, with the 2-man game and things going on, 1-4-1 setup, teams love dodging from that wing. Here we put a bigger emphasis on taking away that middle of the field. So if we're out going on an approach here and my guy's starting inside, our first step is going to be up the field. We talk about first step on an approach all the time. First step to the middle of the field, first step being upfield to take away what we want to take away from a guy. So here it's about flow, and we'll talk about that with the off-ball stuff. But by the time he receives that ball, if an offensive player is inside the offensive box, by the time he receives the ball, your feet need to be ready and chopping to move. Okay, so to get out to a guy, you're going to take big steps. That's how you cover a lot of ground. But by the time he is receiving this ball, we need to have our feet chopping with good body position. So our body position on a wing dodge, and I'm going to draw our feet here, is going to be like that. Can we see that?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to have our feet angled towards this back corner here to keep him underneath. And if he takes the underneath, all that we ask our guys to do, specifically short sticks, again, they get dodged a lot more, but even for our pulls, if you get dodged underneath, your responsibility is to get a piece of him. That's it. If you get a nice hard jam, bump him off their line, you have done your job. If you're trailing him, just like we talked about before, by a half a step, driving that hip, sending him wide to that corner, you're not going to need a slide. If he starts to get underneath, then we're going to automatically double team that. If a guy tries to go for that S dodge or a dive to the front of the crease, we call that a clamp. We're going to automatically double team that, go, and we stay on that till the ball's on the ground. If he does try to get to the middle of the field here, well, you're in great positioning. He has to now, his first step, the last thing we want as a defender is for his first step to the middle of the field to be towards the cage. So if he wants to take the middle of the field, his first step has to be away from the cage because we just have good body position. If you have poor body position, and I'll draw that in where we're completely square here, okay, if our feet are completely square, A, we don't know where he's going. He could go under, he could go over. We're not dictating that. And B, he is now taking a step right towards the middle of the field to start getting downhill at the cage. We want that step to be away from the cage. So if he does want to sweep, again, now that sweep is going all the way up and across the top of the box there. And if he does try to roll, boom, we're there to punch him. We're a half step behind, and we punch hard. But again, it's about our first step, forcing his first step to be away from the cage if he does want to take that sweep. We're willing to give up the underneath shot. We work on those shots with our goalies all the time. Goalies are comfortable seeing low-angled shots. They protect their pipe. A guy has a slide coming to his face and a defender all over his back hip and a low-angled shot. We're going to take those odds as a defense. Any questions or things there from the wing before we move on?
No, I think you're good there.
Cool. So, ex-defensemen, there's a lot of different philosophies. Personally, we press X a majority of the time, meaning the flow of our defense, if we're one pass away, what offenses frequently try to do is dodge, draw a slide, flip the field, attack the backside. But what we want to do is slow down the transfer of that flip. So whether they're throwing it back across the top or whether they're throwing it through X, we want to slow down the transfer of that ball. So as this ball were to come down the wing, our ex-defenseman starts to press out with his stick in the lane, and we want the attackman at X to catch the ball. If we chop the field in half here, we want him, and the ball is over here, to catch this ball side of the field as close to the end line as possible. Offensive players are taught to catch this ball on the opposite side of the field as close to the cage as possible. They want this pass to go right here. Boom, so they can either re-attack and score or pass it to the backside and re-dodge real quick. We want them to catch it here, so they have to transfer, go against probably your best cover guy, or our best cover guy frequently is at X, or one of your pulls. With pressure on him, get over, now transfer the ball to the backside. Where we've pressured, we're now in position off ball. So that's our philosophy most of the time. Teams with really crafty Canadians, you might put a tweak in there, because let's say they are really good at this S dodge. They're going here, and they're really good at getting underneath. Okay, we might hold him a little bit longer, because even though our slide is coming, this now becomes a weird slide angle to slide downfield like this. And teams that are good at it, especially with the dive now, this guy might hold a little bit longer. Read. If this guy dodging this wing has it in his left hand, so if we can picture that, the dodger right here, stick in his left hand, it's really hard for him to pass this ball with a defender on him, with the slide coming to the man here at X. He's sold out now. He's sold out to a point where all he can do is shoot. So if we see that, we're going to either make him make a ridiculous pass or roll the ball to the guy at X, or we're putting the ball on the ground before we let him just dive or get a good shot off there. Now, defense at X, I
had one question on, talking about pressing out towards X as you're adjacent and as the ball's moving in that direction. Like, what do you find the benefits of that guy, extending out? It doesn't sound like he's trying to take the pass away completely, but to slow down the exchange from, ball side to get to the backside. What does that do for your team defense?
It all depends. We might say, don't let that ball transfer through. Now, a lot of the time, we've had excellent cover guys back there for the past couple of years since I've been at Sacred Heart, where we're okay with those guys on ball, even against the other team's best player a majority of the time, with literally the exception of Chris Gray. Even Baccaro only had like 1-1 against us when we played Georgetown. He was phenomenal. Chris Gray is the one guy that we had a little bit of problems with. We had to send somebody. He was phenomenal. But that's one guy in 4 years. We've been able to bottle up behind the cage. So he's not necessarily denying that unless we know a team solely wants to flip that ball through X and bang it to the backside. Stony Brook used to be that way. When they had Rooney back there and they had Jalen Rogers looking at that redodge the backside, we were like, no way, take it away, not happening. But a lot of the time, he's just getting out there to make the guy catch that ball further away, on ball side of the field further away. But what we do teach is having your stick. Now, I teach this to my guys later on, but they have their stick down by their hip, which we never teach them to have it by their hip or by their feet as he's running out. So the dodger or the guy coming down the field doesn't see the head of his stick. And as soon as he makes that pass, we work on one-handed, full extension, pick that thing off. And if you don't get it, you just grab, put two hands on your stick, and you're in good position. We got really easy cause turnovers by doing that. It happens, probably once a game for us at least, when you got guys that practice it and who are big and athletic. But also, it's a really low risk, really high reward. You're not putting yourself out of position to play defense. You're not putting yourself where you're going to get beat on the approach, but you're getting out there, full extension, pick it off, tip it. If nothing happens, you're just in good body position there. So that's, kind of our philosophy. And I know other teams don't. Other teams will let you catch that ball at X. They have more of a slide fill responsibility from the guy at X. Really, our man at X knows he has fill responsibility on a sweep. So if a guy is going across the middle of the field, he gets above the GLE. If a guy's coming down the alley, he's below the GLE and pressing out. That's where our guy knows he's reading the dodger, just like we talked about. Yep. Reading that dodge, where is it going? What's my responsibility? So from X, I've listened to a lot of people talk about cross-check versus the V-hold, at GLE, stuff like that. I'm more of a cross-check guy. And if you guys don't know what that means, it means that when an attackman is dodging up from the GLE, okay, so let's say the man at X, the defender at X is a righty, okay, so his man has the ball here, and there's our defender, okay. He's a righty. Now, I'm a lefty, so I'm making sure that I do this right. Yeah. So this guy dodges right here, okay. If he dodges, he gets about to the GLE. It's, what are you doing with your hands as a defenseman? Are you going to have your stick? Here we go. I got a little traditional guy right here. Most of the Eclipse dudes have seen this before. Okay. Are you going to keep the offensive player locked in between your shaft and your forearm? Or are you going to have your hands like this where your bottom hand here is keeping him from turning the corner? There's benefits to both. And to be honest, I teach the guys more the cross check, but I'm not against them using the V-hold. If you do use the V-hold, the biggest points of emphasis are, one, you can never stop your feet. If they go for that inside roll, you have to be ready for the inside roll to give them a hard shot to force them underneath the GLE, and our slide needs to be timed well. And the other thing is, once your stick is upfield, there's no windshield wiping, okay? Because as soon as you bring that back over, that's when they're turning the corner topside rather than underneath. Underneath, again, lower angle, we're more okay giving up that shot than the guy getting topside on us. So that's our only rule is we want to get to the cross check. Doesn't always happen. If you are in that V hold, you stay in the V hold. Last thing you want to do is take that stick away, because then you're going to get scored on more times than not. There's also different philosophies at X just about footwork. Okay, are you going to be the aggressor, or are you going to give ground, wait till they make their move, and go? Our style, and there's no right or wrong answer necessarily. Our style of defense, we're aggressive. As you guys all know with Coach Basti, if you've ever heard him talk about defense, we like to be aggressive. We get out there, we like to make people uncomfortable. So we do teach a slight back pedal when the guy hasn't made his move, but we want to be out there with a stick in his gut, making him uncomfortable, stick on his hands so he can't feed. He's got to make his decision. And again, once he makes his decision to go one way, we don't want guys rolling back and forth. Again, we teach our guys what offensive players are taught. So offensive players are taught to change direction inside the frame of the goal. Okay, so if they're dodging, this area right here is where they want change of direction. As close to the GLE as close to the back of the crease as possible. Right there, they want to go back and forth either way to make you trip up over the net, make you kind of stumble over your own feet a little bit. You know, you look at those quick guys like a Mikey Sowers. Unbelievably how quick he is. You can't allow him to do that. You got to get your hands on and then keep them going that one way. You know, attackmen are just too quick. The sticks are too good nowadays, where that's what those guys are taught. We want to take that away from them. So any points of emphasis there on X defense? I know it's a little bit tricky standing up.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting to hear, that that you guys believe that there's not necessarily one right way. You have philosophies. You teach, a little bit of how do you properly, we want a cross hold, right? You want a cross check versus the V hold. But if you're going to V hold, here's what you have to do, right? Here's the important pieces here, because it is something that I'm a defensive coach, that it's the question all the time is, well, coach, how do you want me to play on that side of the net? How do you want me to play to my, my weak hand? Should I cross hold or should I V hold? And, I've always kind of had the same belief as you of letting them do what they're most comfortable with, as long as you're not giving up a super fast inside roll dunk that we can't even slide to. So it's interesting to hear that.
I will say, I don't know if you teach this or not. If you are in the V hold and they go for that inside roll, you need to take your knee and try to give them a Charlie horse. Because if they want that inside roll and you drive your knee hard into his thigh, it's forcing him to that back corner, and it hurts really bad. But that's what I teach. If you're in the V hold and they go for that inside roll, again, if you're flat-footed, you're already beat. You're screwed. You have to keep those feet chopping and moving, getting underneath his hand. Same thing, body position, staying low, sitting in the chair, stuff that we go over all the time. But getting your hands physically on his body, not his stick. You want the shaft of your stick inside between your hands on his body, or if you're in the V hold, underneath that elbow. Because if you're on his arm, he's got control. Whether he goes underneath, he sinks his hips, he's in control. If you get underneath, you now have control of him. You want to be on his physical body. And if he goes for that inside roll, you're taking your downfield knee. So in that scenario we were talking about, a righty, driving upfield on a righty, you would be taking your right knee when he inside rolls and driving that as hard as you can right into the meat of his leg.
Love that. One of the other questions, actually thinking about X defense, that I know we get asked a lot within, both high school coaching and youth coaching is, it's like, well, coach, when I'm at X, like how many checks should I be throwing? Where should I be throwing checks? When do I throw checks? When do I play position? What are your thoughts on that?
Again, us being an aggressive defense, some coaches will say none. Other coaches will say 2. And coaches like me will say, don't get freaking beat. Okay. I'm okay with a guy throwing checks, and I teach different check combinations. However, there's checks that give up body position and checks that don't give up body position. The closer they get to the goal, you cannot give up your body position. For those coaches that would say 2 checks, it would be your initial poke or slap on your arrival, just having your stick out in front. And when he goes to pass or shoot the ball, that last one, whether that's a lift, that back check, because that's where your stick is, those are the guys that would say 2. I tell our guys, the further away from the net he is, the more aggressive you're allowed to be. The closer to the net he is, the more you have to stick to that, 2-check rule. Arrive with one, get right into the cross check from there, get control of his body. Then when he goes to pass that thing, we've all seen it, the attackmen that get into you and then bounce and look up. We don't slide to feeders. As soon as a guy bounces and looks up, our slides retreat back to their men as quickly as possible, and our defensemen whack right on the hands. We rip the glove off and then lift underneath. So as they're trying to pass, you're ripping down, pulling up, and that pass is going to get screwed up. So, we give our guys a little bit more freedom there, but the more strict guys would either be 2 checks or no checks at X. There's plenty of, and there's not a right or a wrong. It's your philosophy, what you find to be successful. Not only have we found success with it, but it's really fun. Like, lacrosse is supposed to be fun. Let's have some fun. Offensive guys get all their glory from their goals and their assists, and it's what do you guys get? Ground balls? Well, no, we get caused turnovers. We get opportunities to go kick the crap out of people. So let's go do it. They gave us 6 feet for a reason. Let's have some fun with it.
I love that. I love Coach Basti was telling us how you guys run and gun in transition too, and whoever the first 3 guys up the field are, those guys go, and sometimes it's 3 pulls. So it sounds like your defensemen are enjoying it. They're getting involved in all aspects of the game.
Definitely. All right. So
off ball, I think that's something that, our young guys can learn a ton, right? A ton about off ball, hearing from you today.
Everybody needs off ball. The biggest thing. Okay. So for all you close defensemen out there that are Division I prospects or even just college level prospects, who's the best cover guy on your team, you're on the ball a lot of the game. It's not going to be that way. The biggest transition for anybody as a defenseman is off-ball defense when you get to this level. Because not only are offenses super talented and really quick at moving the ball and have really good dodgers, but they don't just have 1 good dodger, they have 6 good dodgers. Or they have 5 and a dude who has ridiculous hands on the inside and finishes everything. And so with that being said, again, we're reading the body language of a dodger. If a guy isn't dodging and they're passing the ball around the perimeter, subbing or getting their guys on, which with the shot clock now is becoming less and less. But if they're not dodging, then you don't need to be sprinting into position like we're talking about right now. So this is during a dodge responsibilities of our guys. And the first thing you need to know, and I'm going to kind of draw it up for us here, is we talk about during a dodge being ball side of the field. Now, what I mean by being ball side of the field, if a dodge is happening here, so for example, the righty alley, like we were just kind of going over, you use the back pipe as your gauge of being ball side of the field. So same thing if the ball, it's a lefty alley dodge coming down here, these backside defensemen are using the pipes to be ball side of the field. That's their kind of gauge to know where you're supposed to be. So we got a couple of things to talk about. We talked about our on-ball defense. So now we have 1 pass away, 2 pass away, sometimes 3 passes away, okay, and those responsibilities. If you're a 2 or a 3 pass away guy, you need to be ball side of the field. Like I just showed, getting in there, making sure that you're covering up a low, the crease cutters, things like that. Offensive guys do a lot of movement off ball, and some teams want to keep matchups. But the more and more now, teams are saying, screw the matchup off ball. If they want to take advantage of it on the backside, well, they're wasting a bunch of their shot clock on the front side to get that matchup. So more and more. Some teams still follow with the guys. There's no right or wrong, but we pass everything off ball. What I mean by that is if there's a dodge coming right here, so that one that we just talked about, he's coming down, let's say he takes the alley, and he's got a buddy, number 2 here and number 3 on the crease and the low wing, and this guy vacates and this guy cuts in, the guy covering 2 is no longer covering 2. In fact, he was probably hot. So the guy covering 3 needs to tell the man that's hot, hey, I got your guy. They exchanged as, our man covering 2 is getting ready to slide. If he doesn't need the slide, this dodge comes out here. Well, now he's going to be covering number 3 that came in, and number 2 is going to be covered by that backside defenseman. So we pass everything off ball, and that just takes communication. You stand still and communicate. By doing less a lot of times on defense, you are taking away dodging lanes, you're taking away skip lanes. By moving a lot, you are opening up those lanes, or you don't have a slide in position. 1 pass away. If you are 1 pass away, this is what we call flow. Okay, so if you're 1 pass away from a dodger, that's where our guys start to press at X. That's where, you can start to work out. By the time that man catches the ball, you need to have your feet ready to play defense. You can't still be taking those big steps out to him. By the time he catches the ball, your feet need to be ready to react to where he's going. Obviously, the further away from the cage is, the more cushion you can give him. The closer he is to the cage, That's the matchup you got to win. And we talk about those all the time, because offenses dodge, draw the slide, flip the field, and they want to attack from really close to the net. That's how they're going to be successful. So we call those Cholula one-on-ones. We work on them all the time. Those are the matchups you got to win. You win that matchup for 3 seconds, you're going to win that game. You win that matchup 3 seconds continuously throughout the game, you're going to win that, whether you're a pole or a short stick, because that's now going to give the defense time. Okay, so again, let's use this right here on the whiteboard. All right, this guy came down, he dodged, they got their man at X, we'll call him 4. He catches this ball, boom, he now swings it, the ball moved, he now swings it out to number 2. Okay, for example, number 2 for us 2 years ago was Max Tuttle. That's what we wanted. We would manipulate 1, 2, and 3 to be the pole, because the pole was always on Max. 3 was going to be a short stick. So when these guys exchanged, they passed that. Max got to attack a short stick from close to the goal. That's good offense. That's what you want to do. Defensively, by pressing at X, making him carry this further, we're hoping to make him catch this ball out here by the box, out by the restraining box, not in here where they want to have it. Okay? So as he catches this ball further, it gives our slide more time to get into position. With this, let's say he does. They do have good offense, and they catch that ball right in there. They're going to attack right away. Go to the goal. You need to win that matchup 2 to 3 seconds, and that gives our slide enough time to get there. If that is on a short stick, okay, I don't care who you are. It could be the best short stick in the world, in my opinion, probably Will Haas. But if you're getting dodged close to the goal, you can get beat. Okay, short sticks just don't have that advantage. You can be shot around, a step back. Offensive guys are so crafty. If a dodge is happening close to the goal on a short stick, it should be an automatic slide. Go get them. Because once you start getting to levels where there's good players all over the field, they're going to take advantage of that. Sure, if you have a stud short stick who gets out there and jacks a guy up and makes him fall over, great. But that doesn't happen all that often. Rule of thumb is, if it's within 10 yards of the goal on a short stick, it is an automatic fire. You are going to support that short stick. So that's kind of the flow of the on and the off ball. If you are 2 passes away or 3 passes away, your responsibility is huge, because you are going to see and communicate faster than the guys that are 1 pass away and on ball. And it is your responsibility. And we always talk about communicate. Well, it's up to your coaches and your teammates to make sure that you're communicating the right way. One of the things that our guys come in, they start using verbiage that we don't use. And if a guy says blue, but blue doesn't mean anything in your defense, then he's just talking to no one, because no one understands what he's saying. So, that's obviously an extreme, but you need to make sure that you have a cohesive unit of everybody talking the same language. I can't be talking German while you're talking Spanish and somebody else is talking English. We need to make sure that we are all on that same page so that you can say 1 or 2 words quickly and everybody knows exactly what that means. And so with that, especially these guys down here. So your man cover an X, all right, and especially this backside defenseman, this backside wing defenseman. He can see, all right, so he's getting ball side. We're going to say that the dodge is back up. I'll get a lot of this crap out here now. All right, but let's say that ball is back up top. This man right here can see a majority of the field. He needs to be the one with his hips open. You should never have your hips square to the ball off ball. I will say that again. You should never have your hips square to the ball when you are off ball. What I mean by that is, if I was square to you sitting at home right now watching, I'm here. Okay? I can only see what's directly in front of me. If I turn my hips, I now can see here and here. We call that pistols. It means that you can see your man with this gun and you can see the ball with this gun. And I'm lethal with both. That's the idea, being able to see more of the field. So you'll hear us call that out all the time. Yes, your coaches will say, head on a swivel. You don't have to have your head on as big of a swivel if you have good body position. You might only need to go from here to here rather than here and here. That makes a big difference. So those off-ball guys have a huge responsibility. of communicating to their teammates, saying what they see, and then after, whether it's a slide or a recovery or the slide guy getting back in, tell them where they're going. You know, they're more focused on the ball. We're making sure as a defense we're stopping the ball. As you're getting back in, your teammates need to tell you what was going on. Hey, where's your man? Is he high crease? Is he low crease? Did he fade out the back? Tell them where they're going to. So I think that's something that our guys certainly need to work on. I think all defenses need to work on that, because it's a thing of beauty when things are clicking, but it doesn't just happen. You know, it takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of patience and skill to do that.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, very impressive hearing you talk about all these defensive concepts, defensive principles. You know, I think our guys can take a lot away from all that. You know, being able to have this video for our guys to watch, to go back and rewatch. You know, I'm going to share it with my guys, with my defensemen. You know, I definitely learned a lot of value today as well. So we really appreciate it. That's some high level stuff, you know, for you young guys within Eclipse. I mean, you just sat here for about half an hour, 40 minutes with a college defensive coordinator and got to hear what he teaches his college guys and how you can take that to your game and you know, focus on these things. So Coach Skelly, really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing this. It means a lot.
Of course, everybody out there, stay safe, stay healthy. I can't wait to be back on the field with you boys.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.